Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of Cryptic Crypto, the channel that gives you updates on the regular around the crypto market. Today I'm going to be running through where we're at. We've had a bit of a pullback, and I want to discuss all those different things. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. I will be covering XCN, Solana, ETH and Bitcoin primarily today. Hit that bell button, and please follow the channel. Cool. So first of all, on the month, we look fantastic, right? How do we look on the day? Overall, tails having a good pump, but we are down. How do we look on the hour? Not great. How do we look on the week? Yeah, okay. Sums up, sums down. Ethereum's obviously had a nice pump. XRP, CRV, a lot of these had good pumps. But we have had a bit of a pullback across the board. If we look at Bitcoin dominance to start with, look, it's hit this key line of resistance at around about 60.41%. Come back down. And one of the things I did want to discuss is, look, things can't just go up and up and up. Look, I'm very bullish on the market. Ultimately, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but I do believe we are going to get an alt season this year. And when I look at this, I'm like, cool, this is brilliant. We've broken down, this kind of bearish pennant here. We've broken through this channel here, and we want Bitcoin dominance to come down. For us to have a bounce here is healthy. Look, we need, if it just consistently goes down, that's unexpected. That normally means that something dramatic has quite happened, and we haven't had any macro events that would, really push Bitcoin dominance that down and lead to lots of people going into altcoins. We could go up, test this trend line, go up here and come back down, or this could just be a bit of a consolidation phase, do a bull flag, and we could continue lower, which is obviously the ideal scenario. But it's only 2 days. Look, we've been, Bitcoin dominance has been trending down since the 5th of July. And since it's only 2 days where we've actually had a push to the upside, and that is not bearish in the slightest. And I think people need to understand that when looking at the market. When we look at Bitcoin USD, look, we've been consolidating this channel. We had a bit of a fake out. We came back down. That was obviously our all-time high, and we've been consistently going in this channel. If we look at the 4-hourly, but if we look at the daily chart, it becomes much clearer, right? That looks to me like it could be a bull flag. Could be wrong. But it's normal. We had a big push. We hit all-time highs. We came back down, and we are entering this. That is not negative. Like I said, for all the guys that follow me, I know the majority of you probably have larger bags in, those kind of altcoins or degen plays, and are more interested around XCN, CRV, Telcoin, and those kind of holdings that I have. But Bitcoin is still a big driver in the market, and consolidating during this channel before either a move to the upside, which is where I believe, and like I said, my personal target is, or one of my targets is sort of 157,000 for this cycle. I believe we are going to break through this at some point, but we need this to continue, and the longer it consolidates, the better it is and the higher the move. From that perspective, it looks quite clear to me that this is either a consolidation phase where the market's deciding where we're going to go, or it's forming a bullish flag, which is obviously bullish for the overall market. And when we look at XCM, the amount of comments of like things that people message me, or friends, etc., and stuff like that. This is one of my degen plays. I do believe in the project. I think the APR reducing down is only bullish for the market, because it discourages obviously selling pressure. We've come out of this long-term channel, and I've seen people talking about 40 cents is next, 50 cents is next. No, guys, we need to first of all break this key line here, which we've formed here. You could say it's a bull flag, or a wedge. From that perspective, look, we wicked out, but we came back down. We're still trading within that, and if we break out, the first target I would have is around 2 cents. Once we break above that, that's when you get ultra bullish, guys. And I've showed this again and again with my trades, which since doing the channel have all been profitable. We're around about $3,000 now. We did the 500 to 5,000. That's my target. I might have to close some of those trades at some point, depending on where we're at in terms of the market, but we are now testing this key line of resistance, and we could come back down and we could go back up. Ultimately, no one knows what's coming tomorrow. All it takes is a bit of good news with a market that can be affected so quickly by a bit of volume, that we could easily see a push to the upside. And that's where I stand with XCN. I don't get bogged down with, we've been in this, we've been around this kind of value for so long now, XYZ. The longer something consolidates, the longer that you're in a price range, when it does break out, it means that you're going to, reach the higher markets, and you'll probably exit liquidity quicker. And it's important that you do take profits. It's not financial advice, it's just my opinion. And I've already discussed around my targets around 18, 20 cents. From that perspective, if it hits them, I'll be really happy, but I will be taking profits on the upside. And XCN is definitely one to watch, even if it hasn't had the biggest move so far. That doesn't matter. Let's look at XRP. We literally hit all-time highs around $3.66. Again, look, this is a huge push up, which we've been doing only since the beginning of this month. We've pushed up massively. Consolidating around this area, forming a bullish flag is normal. We haven't retested this trend line at was it $3.36. And if we do, then, and we bounce, then we could be looking for a big move up to around about $4.50. That is bullish. And when I posted back in my channel at the beginning, I was like, look, please break this sloping line of resistance and then break this and turn this into support. We did that. We've been very profitable in our trades all the way up here, and hopefully everyone that has obviously followed or done your own research and entered those trades is also thoroughly in the green. Now, when we look at Ethereum, everyone is talking around Ethereum at the moment, to be honest with you, because it's had a massive pump to the upside. We've obviously got this for good support around $3,500, which was resistance. Hopefully we're going to test it, so we can see that is now support before pushing towards sort of $4,000 mark. And Ethereum, with all the stable coin acts and all those different things that have gone through and passed more recently, where most stable coins are built on Ethereum, should be a big push from here. And for all those guys that held on when we were back at, in December at around about $4,000 and have held on for that long, you'll be back to break even soon, guys. But if you have been dollar cost averaging on the way down that I have, and you're looking to say, I haven't taken any profits from my spot bag for Ethereum, but I have from my futures trades, and I think that's natural. I entered a futures trade obviously when we broke out of here. It's been very, very profitable. I'm still not. I see some guys going like, now's risk on 10x, 20x, etc. I'm not doing those sorts of trades. I'm still sticking to the low leverage trading, because we're not in alt season yet. We're just not. We are just not in alt season. Look, it's perfectly normal for us. We've even back tested a bit. We came all the way up to 59. We've gone down to 53. We could go a little bit lower. Obviously, the view is that we go up here. Now, when we start pushing up higher, yeah, I might add a bit more leverage, but I'm still not risk on, because if you look at this, we're at a key level of kind of support. If you look at this channel, kind of we're literally chopping and changing around that side. And look, if you go back to November, yeah, we chopped and changed. We came back down before we suddenly had a huge push. We've had a massive push to the upside, but we are not in an alt season yet. And alt season typically lasts around 4 to 8 to 12 weeks maximum, and that's when you really should be beginning to think about your profits. Ethereum has been doing well against Bitcoin so far, and over the last few weeks, which is great to see. And there's more inflows on Ethereum than there are Bitcoin at the moment, which is what you want to see. Now, when we look at Solana, look, really easy chart, really easy. We knew when we broke out of these two channels, we knew we were going to pop up. We've now hit support around about $206. We could come back down to the 0.618 fib line, and then I've gone like, cool, we could come back down there to go up. We could even bounce back up and just push through, but at the moment we topped once, looks like we topped again, double top. Could we be going down before we move back up? That would be a logical step, right? To turn this fib line into support, and if that is support, brilliant, then we should begin to push back up to the upside. But Solana hit over $200 again. We're now at $197.91. I'm sure anyone that entered these trades with me at around $140 is pretty happy, right? That's a big move to the upside. And look, when we look at this as well, breaking a wallet connected to Trump that's just purchased 6,145. All the news right now is around businesses, beginning You know, Tom Lee, who's a famous trader, you know, he's starting basically his version of Michael Saylor's Liberty, in terms of, like, you know, a treasury for Ethereum. I think that's only natural. Look at this. This gentleman has, you know, drawn his chart and says only short before we get 8,000. I don't think we're just going to rock it up to 8,000. But look, you can see we could probably test this, come back down and push up to the upside, which would be a natural occurrence from there. Again, bullish on Ethereum. If Ethereum pushes, your altcoins will too. Ethereum yearly ready to explode, but what I'm really interested in is BNP has had a huge push. Now, I don't really hold a lot of BNB, but it's surpassed Rolls-Royce in terms of market cap. That is huge news for the market, and something that people should get really excited by. And then if we look at Ethereum BTC, let's have a look at that. Look, this resistance had been forever going on in terms of, like, our Bitcoin pairing. We're pushed up. It's natural. We topped out around about, you know, whatever that is. From that perspective, it would be natural that we come back down and test and support. There's a lot of people that just bull post it. It's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. Fantastic if it does, but we could come back down to here and push back up. We could come down to here and push back up. We could come down to here and push back up. We could break this, wick down, and push back up again. It's really important, guys, that you do your own research and think about, you know, where do you think the market's going? What is the market sentiment? What's going on there? And one thing I did want to discuss, which I think, you know, people are nuts, if I'm honest, around this, is, you know, poor old Jerome Powell has kept inflation down. And everyone's like, we need rates to be cut. We need rates to be cut. Let's get him sacked. Him getting sacked is going to affect the S&P 500. It's going to affect your bags. And ultimately, we're going to see a push to the downside. Businesses, companies, people, traders do not like massive volatility like that. We like it because when it goes all the way down, that's a great entry point. But ultimately, you know, what we want is we want stability. The ideal scenario is for Jerome Powell to do these reductions because he is seen as a very data-oriented, you know, person within the Fed that, you know, will logically make steps and is not risk on. Ultimately, all these people like Powell out and these fake things going around, that's not going to help you guys. Trust me. If he gets sacked, you might have a small push to the upside, but like you're going to see a big push to the downside where the market actually looks at it, and the S&P 500, which is strongly linked to crypto, pushes to the downside because, you know, no one's taken into effect what the tariffs will have in terms of, you know, inflation. Ultimately, you only see those signs 3, 6, 9 months down the line. They haven't been in play long enough. So stop, if you are, bull posting around Jerome Powell resignation or him getting sacked, because ultimately what we want is him to stay and, you know, at some point make those rate reductions. Now, when we look at it, it hasn't had a huge effect on the market right now, right? But if he stays and he delivers that, it will have a massive one. If he leaves, it's going to have a negative effect on that. Look, another bit of bullish news is JP Morgan explores lending against crypto holdings. I mean, I'm not going to subscribe to this, but the fact the Financial Times is actually listing an article on JP Morgan exploring lending against clients' crypto holdings, so your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, I don't know what they're obviously including in that, is huge. Imagine if you get a loan against your XCN or your CRV or any of those coins, you'd be over the moon, right? And again, looking at CRV, which is, again, one of my big plays, to be honest with you, because it's strongly linked to stable coins. Look, cool, we hit our initial target here of about 86 cents. We're broken. We'll turn this line, in my opinion, into support. You know, I feel like we are probably going to be creating a bit of a consolidation phase until we either break to the upside. I've still got my trade open in this. I had this trade open. I entered this one a bit later, to be fair, but I think it's around about 70 cents, etc. With low leverage, I think it's around about 5. And again, you know, I'm quite happy with us trading here. You know, if we start trading, you know, at 86 cents, and yeah, I'm a bit nervous that we have then broken this line of support and we are going to push to the downside. So I probably will close that trade. And that's why it's important to do your own research and always look at the market and think of what could happen next, because no one knows. But what you want to do is you want to have your plan A, B, and C, goes to the upside, my trade continues. I might even add to my trade from that perspective to push the upside. If we go down and we wick below this and it looks like, you know, we're invalidating this line of support here, then I might exit my trade to hope that I get a better entrance, because I did enter this trade later than I wanted. Because if we do, you know, wick back down to support at around 50 cents, oh, that's a brilliant place to trade. I don't think we'd go that low, to be honest with you. There's a lot of support around 76. But, you know, if we do, fantastic. Brilliant news. I can open a trade and I can, you know, utilize my profits from the other one as dry powder to then invest in that again. But at the moment, we are trading typically from around about 90 cents all the way up to, you know, $1.07. You know, $1.20 is a great target initially for us to push through, because that again pushes past that and highlights that we are pushing to the upside. And on our fib lines, I'm incredibly bullish on XCN, not XCN, CRV. I'm bullish on both, to be fair, but you know, $20 is or $19, $20, I do not think is out of the question for this, if I'm honest. Especially when you look at where we've been before, all-time highs. Why can't we get to all-time highs here? Anyway, guys, that's my video. If you could please like and subscribe. Like I said, we've only been going for like just over a couple of weeks. That would really benefit me and my channel, and hopefully get more eyes on. But other than that, appreciate your time. Have a lovely day.